CBS Austin News begins with a weather alert.
So we were at a level of frequency which was one that needed to be addressed immediately, and that's what the operators did.
Well, Texas's power grid was, quote, seconds and minutes away from a major event that could have left Texans in the dark for months, and that's why ERCOT says that the rolling outages began early Monday morning. Well, the startling announcement comes during a media call Thursday, revealing that could have been a much worse situation that could have lasted weeks. As Texas shakes off one crisis, the Lone Star State runs into another. Millions remain without sanitary water this morning, thanks in part to the lack of power over the last couple of days. Austin Water now telling us to expect to be without this basic necessity for possibly days. But that's not all. The bone-chilling temperatures we continue to see are causing pipes to burst, and that's only adding to the ongoing winter weather storm headache. Well, thanks for waking up with us. You're watching CBS Austin This Morning. I'm John Carlos Estrada.
And I'm Allison Miller. Those temperatures will start to warm up later today, but experts believe that in itself will make some problems even worse. We continue our team coverage this morning as the state is left reeling and looking for answers.
We'll check in with our Fred Cantu and Jessica Taylor with the latest developments on power and water. But first, let's go to meteorologist Avery Tomasco. Avery, you're bringing us some excellent news on this Friday morning.
Finally, for the first time in 2.5 weeks, JC, I have nothing to tell you about in terms of any winter weather. So this is going to stay blank, and that's the way we like it. We got sunshine on the way. We got warming temperatures on the way. So the damage is done. The cleanup continues. It may take weeks to get everything back to normal, maybe even longer, but at least we can say things are not going to get worse in the weather department. It is very cold, though, this morning. A different network of thermometers than what you just saw. This is from the LCRA. Shows temperatures as cold as 13 in Travis County so far, 11 on the thermometer, northwest Gillespie County. We're going to turn these very cold temperatures into our warmest afternoon in more than a week. High temperature in Austin of 40 degrees. This will mean melting, thawing is rapid, but pipes bursting and other issues with this thawing. Ice thawing is going to be an issue. We'll track the rest of the warm up for you coming up.
Everybody's been filling up coolers with water, filling up your trash cans with snow and boiling it on the stove, and that's how you're having to use the toilet facilities.
Survival skills right there. All eyes shifting to the latest problem here in Central Texas. Clean water boil order notices remain in place through the region this morning, with more than 30 communities being told to bring their water to a rolling boil for at least 2 minutes before drinking or cooking. And that includes Austin, and this marks just the second boil water notice issue in the city's history. The first, well, that was back in 2018. CBS Austin's Fred Cantu joins us live. And Fred, Austin Water told us to be prepared without this basic necessity for possibly days.
Yep, it is bottled water time again, and we are being told we're going to have 1 million gallons of bottled water on its way to Austin. The first shipment, 2 18-wheelers worth, is going to be on its way to Austin today. And we actually did, as you mentioned, have to do this before, distributing bottled water back in 2018 after record flooding clogged the filters in our water treatment plants. And back then, much of the water was distributed in drive-through events. I mean, we'll probably do something similar this time around, too. But we are told this time the total water shipment from FEMA expected to be in the form of 8 million 16-ounce bottles.
That's coming from 6 different states in the southeast part of the country, and trucks that are now on their way headed to us.
And the feds are also authorizing emergency generators and diesel fuel be sent to Texas. With power outages still a problem across the Lone Star State, the White House says the backup power can be dispatched to hospitals, water plants, communications, and other key critical infrastructure. And the feds say more assistance may be sent as requested. We're live at the state capitol. Fred Cantu, CBS Austin News.
All right, thanks, Fred. Well, on the power front, it seems like many are doing much better this morning. Several hours ago, Austin Energy says they were able to flip the switch for tens of thousands more customers, and statewide, that number also improving.
Now the investigation of why this happened begins. The governor wants answers, and so does Congress. CBS Austin's Jessica Taylor joins us live. And Jessica, ERCOT told us yesterday this could have been a lot worse.
Could have been sitting in the dark not just days but weeks and months. ERCOT revealed yesterday we were seconds and minutes away from a catastrophic blackout. The good news, Austin Energy has nearly 97% of power back on, but it comes almost too late for many. Governor Abbott spoke on Thursday as millions of Texans across the state are still without power and says reforming the electric reliability in Texas is the top priority. He's adding more emergency items to the legislative session focused on investigating ERCOT and calling for funding to put toward winterization. Many are calling to question ERCOT's response to this entire event and think an investigation needs to happen to see what exactly led to the failure that left millions without power. ERCOT executives, however, stand by their decision for the blackouts, claiming we came within, quote, seconds and minutes to an even worse statewide power outage.
Let us get through the event, get customers back on, and then we can take a look at the details of our performance.
Austin Energy still has 370 active outages they're working to restore, and Oncor has 145,000 outages still active across the state. And ERCOT says in the next several months they expect to gather all that data and turn it into a massive report for the public. So if you're needing more answers, you'll have to wait for them. Jessica Taylor, CBS Austin News.
All right, thank you, Jessica. As many still wait for their power to come back on, hundreds are now without a home after a massive fire erupted at an apartment complex in San Antonio.
I mean, I haven't been able to go to work all week long, and now everything that we have in there is gone.
Crews arrived on scene at 1 yesterday afternoon, but because of the winter weather, they couldn't access a frozen fire hydrant only a few feet from the blaze. As a result, the fire spread and crews were left fighting it through the night. Residents were evacuated to a nearby high school. A local church is planning to help feed them today. And this is just the latest in a string of fires igniting since the cold weather hit Austin. Firefighters believe an oven left on when power first went out caused an East 7th Street fire on Thursday. A day before that, 2 people died and 1 was critically injured in a house fire on East 12th Street. That cause still under investigation, but residents trying to keep warm might have been a factor.
Connie Odom with the Williamson County Office of Emergency Management has been taking our early morning calls this week and joins us once again. Good morning, Connie. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Great. Thank you. Well, Connie, the water issue in Austin could be days long. How are things in Williamson County?
Well, we have several communities that are still really struggling. They're under a boil water notice or have no water at all. We set up shelters yesterday in Florence and Thrall to help those communities. They have no power or water right now. We have probably about 8 different towns that are under a boil water or no water at all. So there are people that are still struggling right now, and we're looking forward to having the warmer temperatures. And it's still really icy this morning, so people need to be very, very careful and maybe wait for things to melt before they head out.
Oh, Connie, that's right. I went to put gas in my car this morning and I didn't see that there was a patch of ice as I stepped out of my car. As people start to venture outside of their homes this weekend, what should they keep in mind?
Well, there are going to be long lines going to the grocery stores. There have been lines for that. But I think people need to keep in mind just having some kindness for one another. I've seen so much kindness in setting up the shelters and the people who've come to help and the people who've done donations, and we had donations of food here to our Emergency Operations Center yesterday and to our Sheriff's Office. So I think that's just something that you always see the good that comes out from people when we are hit the hardest, and we just really appreciate the support that we've seen in the community.
Connie, that's great to hear. If people do want to help, what are the best ways they can do that right now?
really going through either their local church, going through an established nonprofit. Those facilities are set up to handle donations, and they're able to sort them out and get them to the people who really need them. So I would just say work with your local nonprofit and find ways to help out in that. Sometimes it's lending, some hours of volunteer hours, or sometimes it's helping out by giving food cards or things like that. So just work with your local nonprofit.
Yeah, I think depending on neighbors is a good idea right now. Nextdoor also a really good option if you need to know what's going on around you. Well, thank you so much for waking up early and speaking with us this week. We really do appreciate it, Connie.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. Thanks for all you've done to keep our people informed through this entire winter storm event. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, that was Connie Odom with the Williamson County Office of Emergency Management. Our time now is 5:38. All eyes on the Lone Star State, including from leaders up in Washington. How officials here at home in the nation's capital plan on addressing that unfolding during this massive winter event that we've been having here in Texas.
It's 5:40. It is Friday finally, and our weather is improving drastically and rapidly. High-resolution color satellite is interesting. First, you can see all the snow and clouds and ice moving off the coast, and then you see the snow a little bit. Still, even at night, sun hasn't risen. You can see a little outline of heavy snow out in West Texas towards the Mexico border, and even here in Central Texas too. And that's why, as it is very cold this morning, a temperature in Austin of 22 right now. Whatever fell the last week that's still on the road is going to have iced over again, especially down in Hays County where it was heaviest. It's cold everywhere, some upper teens just about everywhere you look. So especially right here, Bastrop into Caldwell and into Blanco County, that is where the roads will be slipperiest. But it's all better from here. Finally, sunshine is going to be here from start to finish, not a cloud in sight. That means we get to our warmest day in 9 days, and then we keep going from there. If you've missed it so far this morning, I'll take you through the next 7 days, which are looking phenomenal. Coming up.
All right, thanks, Avery. Well, the snow is going to start to melt, but take a look at this, making the most of what they've been given. Some Austin neighbors creating this masterpiece in South Austin. We've been seeing a lot of igloos out there, but this one is certainly impressive here. Carpenter Matt Thompson and realtor and renovator Gary Atkins rallied the troops to make this happen.
Thankful for is great neighbors. Because, you got to find some stuff to do with your time when it gets weird. So we built an igloo.
Yeah, the igloo ended up being 8 feet in diameter and just over 5 feet high.
Whoa.
Impressive, right?
That's like a castle for the little girl. That is really impressive. Very cool to see. Well, we are not just dealing with power and water problems across Central Texas. Finding food is a challenge. But several local restaurants have your back. We'll detail where you can find free hot meals today. That's after the break.
There are people who simply don't have any water right now. We're doing everything we can to get bottled water brought into the city and the county.
Well, to help deal with the impacts of the winter storm, Travis County Judge Andy Brown is set to hold an emergency meeting later today. On the agenda, how to help more Central Texans right now. Commissioners will take action on other emergency response and operations related to the recovery from this winter weather event and look at extending the declaration of disaster that will free up more resources on the road to recovery. Also happening today, several Texas Democrats will take up accountability from this severe winter storm. They'll be holding a virtual press conference slamming what they call failed Republican leadership in the past 20 years and the crisis we're now seeing here in Texas. The group is mainly calling out Governor Greg Abbott for the issues, but there's also another Republican leader from the Lone Star State in the spotlight. Protesters here gathered outside the Houston home of Senator Ted Cruz just yesterday, hours after it was revealed that he left the state with his family on a trip to Cancun, Mexico. After first defending his decision in an exclusive interview with KTRK TV Houston, the senator now calls the trip a mistake.
Your question, what was I thinking? I was trying to take care of my family. I was trying to take care of my kids, and it has been. It's unfortunate the firestorm that came from it. It was not my intention in saying yes to my daughters to somehow diminish all the Texans that were going through real hardship.
The Texas senator even requested an escort from the Houston police for the departure, despite resources being stretched thin during the storm. Senator Cruz was originally scheduled to fly back Saturday. After the criticism, however, he changed plans and flew back Thursday afternoon. And while the Texas senator takes the blame, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz doesn't think he has to, tweeting out overnight, quote, "Ted Cruz should not have apologized."
Other U.S. leaders, including President Biden and Speaker Nancy Pelosi, are keeping an eye on Texas's recovery. Our commander-in-chief has been in contact with Governor Abbott, while Pelosi promises an investigation into what happened. But they're not focusing just on that. The coronavirus pandemic, of course, still rampant across the U.S. And just as vaccinations started picking back up, the paralyzing series of storms causing rollouts in many states to grind to a halt.
We have accumulating backlog of vaccines that need to be boxed and shipped.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says the U.S. will have to work double time to make up for weather-related vaccination delays. Experts say the push is critical in taking on variants of the virus that could fuel another surge. It's not just vaccinations being impacted. We're now getting a clearer picture of how much COVID-19 testing happened this week. Austin Public Health says it went from testing 10,000 people a week from January 21st through February 14th to just 5 people this week because of the winter weather. Testing and vaccination sites will remain closed today. It's unclear when they will be back up and running. All right, our favorite person today, not earlier this week, but we love you today, Avery.
Look at my tie. I wore this tie specifically because it's going to be sunny today, and not a moment too soon, because this has been a week and a half long process since that first Arctic batch moved in last Wednesday. In the snarl of COVID-19 rollout vaccinations, it's all because of the snow, which we've had plenty here, haven't we? 2 doses of it. Yesterday was pretty significant too for some. We got less than an inch in Austin, but down towards Hayes County, Kyle, Buda, San Marcos, 2 to 3 inches. You get even crazier though as you get west of San Antonio, 4 to 6. 8 to 12. Del Rio yesterday, 11.2 inches of snow, smashed their all-time record for daily snowfall accumulation. This is now more snow in Del Rio, Texas than Boulder, Colorado in some locations. So it's remarkable. It is meteorologically fascinating, but it has also been heartbreaking and tragic, especially with temperatures. 144 hours, a new record for longest time spent below freezing at Camp Mabry. 70 to 80 of those hours were spent without power, without heat, for thousands in Central Texas. Hopefully that is being restored quickly for you and hopefully your friends and family this morning. I know it has been pretty quick over the last 24 hours. There are still some without power, mainly because of the ice storm that moved through Wednesday into Thursday. We've had like 3 once-in-a-generation storms in just the last week. But now we're putting it behind us. Thank goodness. It is still cold this morning. It still feels every bit as cold as it has the last few days, teens and 20s out there. But as this polar vortex and the storm associated with it moves towards the east, the cold weather through all of the central U.S. is going to be washed over by much warmer air, especially out of the southwest. Gulf of Mexico, it is coming in hot, and it's going to feel great today. Even still, it's 40 degrees with a wind chill in the 30s today, but that's going to feel like paradise compared to what we've been dealing with for the last 9 days, since last Wednesday. Highs today could get up into the upper 40s, low 50s in the hill country, and this is going to mean a rapid improvement that gets even warmer as winds switch back out of the south. Warm wind direction. That's why we got the red arrows on the screen. We get nice and toasty in the next 7 days. Kind of a weird transition. Almost as weird as going from hot to cold is going from cold to hot. High temperatures back in the 70s by next week. Of course, a few issues with this thawing, this melting that's going to occur. A lot of people may be concerned about flooding. We've had a lot of precip that's just been frozen and stuck there over the last week. Well, when you melt it all down at Camp Mabry, it's just 1.84 inches. At the most, in a few spots, you melt it down to 2 to 3 inches. But we've handled a whole lot more than that and had only very minor issues in flooding. So I think this is going to be pretty minor for us too, especially if it's thawing pretty slowly. What about bursting water pipes? Remember, if you don't have any water flowing through your pipes, it's either that the city of Austin still hasn't repaired your service area yet, or your pipe could be frozen. Know where your shutoff valve is and be ready to put it into use. Otherwise, 76 next Wednesday. The end is here.
All right, thanks. Oh, sorry.
All right, Avery, so don't go too far. Keeping spirits up and keeping things weird despite everything that's happened this week. From From the power outages to the water issues, one man right here still had it in him to try and put some smiles on our faces. If you can't tell, he's dressed up as a Night King from the Game of Thrones and was spotted outside the Circle C Ranch in Southwest Austin. And we sort of need something like this after the week we've had.
Yeah, I want to share a little bit more. His name is Bud. I'm not going to share his full name because he reached out to me on Facebook, but I haven't gotten his permission to actually give his information out there. But his name is Bud. He said he was tired of being cooped up. He wanted an afternoon walk, so he threw on the costume and thought, hey, maybe we'll make some people smile. And I'd say by the 1.5 million people that have now seen that post on my Facebook page, Bud, you were successful.
Yes.
We all needed that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was awesome. Good choice for your outfit attire for that walk. All right, well, another good story for us here. Area restaurants are stepping up, and they are offering free hot meals today. Here is just a few, sponsored by the Austin Winter Storm Relief Fund. While supplies last, Schlotzsky's North Cross will be handing out free sandwiches starting at 11. There's also free meals at Twin Lion, China Harbor, and Phonatic when you mention Cocoa. There's too many, though, to get through here, so we put the entire list with times and locations on CBSAustin.com.
All right, Simply Rain is also handing out free water today, and it comes at a good time as last night Austin Water warns us to be prepared to be without it for possibly days. So take a look here. Here's the info. Simply Rain Water is prepared to give out 10,000 bottles of water at 2 locations today. The Meteor Coffee Shop off of South Congress starting at 10 a.m. And then at 1 p.m., they'll be at Gabriella's at 900 East 7th Street. That's really close to downtown. The plastic-free bottle company says that they're looking at other locations to give out water, so follow them on social media and keep track of that.
I feel like we shouldn't be going through this.
Well, still ahead on CBS Austin this morning, power is slowly being restored to millions of Texans who were left out in the dark and cold this week, but the crisis is far from over. 2/3 of Texas now have no drinkable water, and that could last for days. The latest developments coming in overnight, from the power problems to the water woes. It is finally Friday, though, February 19th, 2021. CBS Austin This Morning will continue after this break.